Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of It's Me Speaking to You. I am, as always, your ever faithful host, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson, coming to you live and direct from the Gateway to the West, St. Louis, Missouri. And today, folks, I am just like in surreal mode here, a little bit beside myself, sort of pinching myself, wondering if this is really happening, because if I had $1 for every time I watched this film that this gentleman starred in, I would be a very, very wealthy man. He is not only a very good actor, he's an amazing martial artist. He's also an author. He wrote the book, The Last Dragon, an autobiography. And he, like I said, was the star, along with some other folks, of the aforementioned iconic classic flick, The Last Dragon. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the program, Taimak. What's up, my brother?
Hi, Jeffrey. Thanks for having me.
No, man, thank you, brother. I so appreciate it, man. When I first started the show, my old notebook, which is gone now, you were at the top of the list. Even though I was a new show, and I still am, I wanted to bring on some heavy hitters, and you were definitely someone I wanted to chop it up with, sir. So thank you again, man. I was checking, some of the stuff you're up to. It looks like you're going to be next door here in St. Louis, at Kansas City here in about a week or so. What do you got going on over there?
Yeah, I'm on a book tour. I wrote my autobiography, and if people want tickets, they can just go online and go to. I guess the best place would be is Incognito. That's the name of the publishing company.
Okay.
And I guess you'll have a link or something.
I will post a link at the description of the video and the YouTube video and stuff. I'll definitely have, and I'll let you do a shout out again at the end of the interview here of all your social networking, etc.
Yeah, I'll be out there on the 22nd in Kansas City, Draft House Theater. For that actual event, you have to go to Draft House, their website. But The rest of these events for the rest of the year will be in Incognito mostly.
Copy that, and like I said,
folks, the movie obviously, and I'll have my book there, and we'll do pictures and everything.
Absolutely, sounds good, Q&A. Folks. Little Q&A, yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Well, I have a few cues for you myself, my brother. I mean, this is this year the 30th, if I'm correct, the 30th anniversary of that iconic flick, Berry Gordy's The Last Dragon. You guys have been a little bit everywhere, doing a bit of touring, if you will. Obviously 30 years, man. It's flown by, man.
It's actually 31 years. It was last year was the 30th. This is the 31st year.
Man.
So that a long time, yeah.
It's just flown, man. It's just flown. And again, you look fantastic, brother. I don't know what your fountain of youth is. I mean, obviously you take good care of yourself and all that good stuff. But the 30 years has been good to you, my man. That was, 30 years ago. I mean, obviously you've done so much since then. What was that? What was that like back then, man? I mean, that audition process. Did you have an agent? Like, how did you get hooked up with that flick? And what was that process like?
I never acted before. I did a little school plays and this and that, but never acted before. I wasn't pursuing acting. I was kickboxing, and then trying to decide. I was 19. If I'm going to go to college, where would I go? And that whole thought process. And then this film ends up coming up as a possibility. Long story short, I went through a whole trial, which I write about in my book, a lot of details, but I ended up getting the role. It was amazing, The 80s is, especially in New York, or anywhere, but especially in New York, was a very memorable time. It had its pros and cons. The pros was it was a lot of artistic expression, and the martial arts was it was very colorful. This is obviously pre Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, all that stuff. So they had a lot of characters fighting in tournaments and kickboxing, and this New York had high crime. Yet, a lot of times when there's that compression of culture in society, there's a lot of expression. So there was a lot going on. It was great.
Yeah, definitely was an interesting time, man. The good old 80s. I certainly wasn't in New York at that time, but the old memorable nostalgic 80s. And it's cool, man, going back, every once in a while, like I said, I'll throw in The Last Dragon, just, one of them rainy Sundays, or even just to watch it, man, because it's just one of them feel good flicks, man. It's just everybody knows the one-liners, you got the glow, teach me some moves. Like, it's just, it's kind of transcended and really has definitely withstood the test of time. Unfortunately, I mean, like I said, there's downside to it. A little bit of everything. Can't have the yin without the yang. You've lost some friends who were in that picture. The gentleman who played Shonuff, Julius J. Carey, passed away in 2008. Richie, Leo O'Brien, and of course Vanity. What are your thoughts on that, man? Had you spoken to those guys prior to their passing? Had you stayed in touch with any of the cast?
Sure, yeah. Of course, it's not a good feeling, and it's kind of strange, What can you say? It's just it's part of life, but gone too soon,
Yeah.
And in that sense, I felt not too great about it because there's still a lot going on and a lot in them, and they were all charismatic in their own way, and a lot more to offer,
What you and if I'm correct, I saw you and Leo were working on, and I think you guys finished it. I've Seen Things.
Actually, no. Leo, he got shot, and he was a kid when I did The Last Dragon, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So we were different age brackets, so it wasn't like we were buddies. I was young, but I was in a different age bracket. He was more like a little kid.
Sure.
So I was doing my thing, and over the years, I'd see him, and it was always nice. But I heard about the shooting, and then I went and saw him in the hospital. And at that time, I was writing I've Seen Things and shooting it as a short film. I stopped shooting it. All this information is in my book.
Sure.
I visited him in the hospital, and I wrote a role for him, and I started having him rehearse, and he was fantastic. But then he died very shortly afterwards.
Wow. And that was from the complications from the shooting, if I remember reading correctly.
Right. And, and Denise, she was in conversation with me about touring and going around with regards to appearances and things like that, but she obviously is gone, and Julius was the first to go. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's tough. You guys are kind of attached to each other forever via this movie. That's why I was kind of curious if you guys had literal personal interaction since the flick. Sometimes the people just go their own separate ways and don't speak anymore. But that's cool that you guys did. Obviously Prince's untimely death too. I saw an interview with him. Watching The Last Dragon last night and watching Vanity, it was just insane because I thought about something Prince said, because he was like, she loved knowing she was like the finest woman on the planet.
Right.
And just seeing some of those scenes, even when she's supposed to be like disheveled, I'm like, my God. Yeah, just breathtaking.
She was one of a kind, and unfortunately swept up in that Hollywood scene can sometimes chew you up and spit you out.
Sure. Yeah, it's
she found some solitude and some peace in that she became more spiritual and more and stopped the drugs. Sure.
Yeah, I'd seen some of shows she would be on some religious shows where she had converted, turned her life over, which always anything's better than that dark path, because like you said, it could eat you up and chew you up and spit you out. Well, speaking of some of your more current work, not necessarily current, I host another podcast with UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich, and we had on a friend of yours or someone you worked with, Sean Stone, and I saw a kind of a one sheet for a flick. I think it was called Enter the Fist that you were in. It was kind of a few iconic people from you, Jason London, Don Fry, Sean Stone. What was that about?
Well, I don't know what they're doing with it. I mean, they finished Principal Photography last year, and I'm waiting to hear if they're putting it out, because they got into some stumbling with the editing. But it was pretty funny. There was a lot of crazy fight scenes, and Danny Trejo, and I do a small fight scene with Simon Rhee, and then Simon Rhee from Best of the Best, and then a short that was very short, but the other one was with Bill Goldberg, the wrestler.
How was that? How was that fight?
I was actually injured throughout the whole thing. I had a torn hip injury, and I just toughed it out. It was very difficult, but he was fun to work with. He was out of his mind. He likes a lot of contact,
Right.
So it was very funny. But it's a comedy, So hope to see it soon. I'll know when it comes out, when they let me know.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really ask. We went into kind of a bit of a deeper down the rabbit hole conversation when I had him on, but I'll
Yeah,
definitely.
he's out there, isn't
Oh yeah, man. It was the show was called The Conspiracy Farm, so it was like that's another like top 10 who I got to get on. Like he was definitely at the top of the list because he's a
he?
interesting individual.
Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned obviously 80s in New York, and you had mentioned this was all before UFC, MMA. I mean, as a lifetime martial artist, and obviously I'm sure you still practice martial arts. What are your thoughts? I mean, I remember too back in the day when these fights were obviously not sanctioned and it was so frowned upon. Martial arts movies were all the craze. It seems like this all has evolved to now this amazing sport, and I quite enjoy the sport, becoming super mainstream. What are your thoughts on the UFC, all of it, Pride, UFC, and this growth and evolution of martial arts?
Yeah, it's got its pros and cons. I'm focused on bringing some. I wrote the autobiography to get back out and be seen. And I'm getting great reviews on the book on Amazon. If people want to purchase it, they can purchase it there. But the whole idea of the autobiography is to come back out because I was so out of the film and scene for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
so now working my way back in, one of the intentions is to bring back some of those great martial arts fight scenes that are also some of the spirituality and some of the spiritual aspects that Bruce Lee and the Kung Fu series David Carradine and a lot of the Shaw Brothers movies dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
So with the UFC having great athletes and showing a lot of great fights, it lacks in substance as far as delivering some of that old school spirituality that comes
Mm-hmm.
with martial arts. So that's something that can be shown in a story. So that's just like the reason why The Last Dragon has lasted so many years. And people tell me that from every walk of life, all different countries, that they watch it all the time, and they watch dozens, some hundreds of times.
Right.
It's where you can see a fight, and once that fight is over, you may not think about it from very long afterwards. At least it doesn't last like a film like that, and that's because the entertainment value and the spiritual message that came with it.
And I think that's so true, man. And I would love to see that resurgence. I mean, as I was watching it last night, just that message, like when you reach that upper level, your mind, body, and soul are one. I mean, I think that's such a good message. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of Star Wars in that, and I've talked about this with people before, it's all the Force, right? But if you use it for ill, you get the red glow. If you use it for good, you get the gold glow. So I mean, I think that was a cool little kind of existential message within that it resonated with me. So yeah, I would love to see more of that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, because what is life about but inspiration and motivation and giving visions to people that lack vision.
Yeah.
Deal with every mundane ins and outs of life. It kind of gets stale by default.
Yeah.
And these type of things what makes theater and TV and film distinct from athletic events and all those type of things is that you can tell a story that can impact people in such an amazing way. Just like music, same thing.
Sure.
Music's basically telling a story in a song. So that's what excites me about the future is me training and getting in tip-top shape and to deliver another great martial arts action film with a message.
That would be sweet, man. I mean, if you could tell that the cycle of things, like the 80s is the thing again, like retro is now cool. You know what I mean? It's the 80s have kind of come back around. What are your thoughts? I mean, having been out for a minute, man, what are your thoughts on the industry now compared to 30 years ago? I mean, I know the medium has changed with, the internet and everything, but the industry itself, what are your thoughts on it from 30 years ago? What's different? Is it the same?
Different is that things went digital, and that made a huge difference. And then you have many different platforms where before you just had VHS and the movie theater.
Right.
Now it's not about so much getting a movie in a movie theater. It's more about all the other platforms that are available to showcase your work, and make some money potentially. So that makes it. But there obviously is much more competition because now you don't need as much money to make a film. But back in the days, you needed a lot of money because you were shooting on film and doing the old school editing, not in a computer, and all that cost so much money, and it was so out of whack. Someone wants to make a movie, well, you need at least $1 million. You need more, and more and more and more and more. And then now, it's still, it's really about the talent of the artists that make the movies rather than anything else, because you have so much content, but the quality comes from the person. So, I look and I see a lot of bad acting. I see a lot of bad directing, so it's not so much about the fact that we can do a lot more and make a lot more movies because it's cheaper, but it's the quality that I'm still looking for.
Sure. Well, and it's like similar to, I don't know, like photography and the accessibility of the technology. It tends to, in my opinion, like oversaturate things. So like you said, you tend to, quality tends to suffer, but like everything, the cream will rise to the top. Like you said, the talented ones will ultimately prevail, hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's become more like, how do you get the cream seen,
Yes.
And that's where more marketing and viraling videos and all that type of stuff starts to become more of value. They got a Last Dragon clips of Shonuff coming in like the dojo and all those scenes I did with him on I think it's called viral memes or dark viral memes, and it's got like over 2 million views and thousands of likes, and people just talking about how much they love the movie and everything. And it's things like that, because The Last Dragon never got exposed that way, never got the publicity.
Right.
I read about that in my book as well, because they didn't think it would be liked by other cultures other than black. And Barry Gordy was always fighting with, at that time, TriStar.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a black movie. It's a movie that everybody will love. And that's what ended up happening in the long run after it got seen on TV. And now it's more popular than ever, but it's still in a cult type of way. It's not mainstream yet, but it seems like it's becoming more like that as the years go on.
And I dig the whole, the guy finally gets the girl, because I was always, kind of the nerd-ish kind of person. Not that you were the nerd, but you definitely weren't the conventional mainstream. You kind of walked your own path and stuff. So I thought that was cool. I dug the whole vindication of somewhat the underdog, but always, you weren't necessarily the underdog. You just could kick butt and it's
right. It definitely gives hope to the nerds and to the people that may not have all the strength and swag and money and so forth.
Yeah. Well, and again, man, I've had on martial artists and instructors and that particularly have a philosophy about martial arts that I enjoy. And like your character, he just wasn't, again, you were Luke Skywalker and Shonuff was walking around being Darth Vader. You were just, I could rip your head off, but I'm just not going to, because that's just not the way. You know what I mean? It's just, I love that message, man. I really did. Cause and that honestly resonated me as I got older, resonated with me as I got older. Martial arts is something that's, been more philosophical really than physical for me. Not to get all, zen out, but yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer, man. I know, like you said, you're touring. Do you have any dates you want to shout out? Any of your social media?
Anything I Am Taimak, so Facebook and Instagram / I Am Taimak. If you Kansas City Draft House Theater, this coming the 22nd, and then where do I go after that? I'll be in DC on the 1st and the 3rd. There'll be a screening on the 1st and 3rd in DC. And then Boston, New York. Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I will post those dates and those links to the YouTube and all that good stuff, so people will be able to track you down, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Continued success, man, and thank you for that wonderful, or your contribution to that wonderful masterpiece we know as The Last Dragon, and continued success, brother. And thank you again for your time, my man.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Jeffrey Wilson. It's me speaking to you.